All right, let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome and thank you for joining us today. We're excited to talk to you about the 3 keys to leading change and accelerating business results. It's definitely a topic we care deeply about here at Root. Today you will be hearing from our very own Gretchen Sussman, who is not only an expert in change at Root, but she also has a deep background and expertise in the food and hospitality industry. Gretchen will be sharing what some of the best organizations in those industries are doing differently to empower their people and activate change. But first, a little bit about me. My name is Meg. I will be serving as your chat host today. My goal is to make sure you all have a voice in today's discussion. If you know anything about Root, you know we like to keep things fun and interactive, so today is not any different. You will have opportunities throughout the webinar to share your thoughts and reactions, so please keep your chat panel open and don't be shy. The one thing I do want to note is you will want to switch your chat to all participants so that you can share to the rest of the group, and you should be good to go. So, without further ado, Gretchen Sussman.
Thanks, Meg. I really appreciate it, and thank you all for joining this session. Again, as Meg said, we're very, very passionate about change, but even more passionate about how great organizations and great teams lead change. And as we said, the topic today is about the 3 keys to lead change and accelerate business results. And for those of you who don't know my background and didn't have time to check me out on LinkedIn before this, I thought it might be helpful just to share a little bit about my leadership journey and how I came to know and believe the insights and the methodologies that have helped organizations, large and small, effectively lead transformational initiatives. Over the past 30 years, I have held leadership positions in organizations representing some 6 different business verticals in the food service industry, including logistics, technology, consumer packaged goods, sustainability, leadership development, and now consulting. Wow. I actually had a friend the other day tell me they think I'm like the Lady Gaga of food service. I keep changing it up. I'll take that as a compliment. They've been private and public and even nonprofit, and they've traded in North America and even the global marketplace. But you know what? In every single one of those organizations, the opportunity was exactly the same. I was either pioneering or transforming a business unit or team to help them deliver top and bottom line business results. I would go in and diagnose the internal and external factors that impacted performance, and then analyze those factors to make the tough decisions around people and around strategy to implement that change and accelerate business results. Simple, right? Ha! Not so much. It's really, really hard. I mean, really hard. You know, through each transformation, I learned a lot about leadership, about resilience, about people, about myself. I also learned what good change looks like, and I learned what bad change looks like. And the reason that we and I am so passionate about what we do here at Root is that through all of those experiences, the one thing I know for sure is that no matter what the business or the initiative, no matter how smart you think your strategy is, there are a few things that we know that some leaders do different that makes the difference between working really hard and seeing marginal success and working really smart and leading through others to deliver exceptional business results. So that's what brings us to our discussion today. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. So what is our promise, or what is my promise to you today? So at the end of our conversation today, I want to make sure that you'll understand how to communicate the why, the what, and the how of the change that you're trying to make. What are the secrets to making that change actually stick? And how is, and then we'll take a look at how one of the world's most influential companies successfully led their transformation and engaged their employees and lived to see another day. So let's get into it. So let's talk about the C word. And for our HR folks on the phone, I'm talking about, don't worry, I'm talking about the word change. So most of the time we don't even know we need to change until the situation is absolutely glaring. I mean, I think about just the other day, trying on a pair of pants I hadn't tried on for a while, and, you know, there's weight gain, right? It happens to you, right? And then you think about business examples out there like Blockbuster and Sears. I mean, they were just kind of sitting there doing the same thing, and that's what happens to us a lot of times in business. We do the right things. We think we're doing the right things. It feels normal. It's what we've been doing for a long, long time. And then what happens is when we start on the change curve, it gets really uncomfortable. It's stressful, it feels confining, and it's really difficult. And there's, unfortunately, just like dieting, there's absolutely no easy button. There's no pill we can take to make it any easier. But I can tell you, when it's done well, it can absolutely be spectacular. And especially when you do it with others, it can be transformative. But change is hard, and it often fails. So let's take a look at the statistics. So 70% of all strategies or initiatives do what? They fail. 70%. That's a really, yeah, exactly, huh? And so why is that? This is an opportunity for you on the phone. Why do organizations fail? Any ideas?
I opened up the chat if anyone wants to cue in.
Well, what we do know, is that poor communication.
Ooh, we got some results.
Oh, all right, cool.
Here we go.
I love it.
Fatigue, too much change, no results in the past, not anticipating industry shifts.
Yep.
Good one. Communication issues, teams not understanding goals. People aren't bought in. Leaders not being aligned. Bosses, lack of planning. Poor communication. No follow-through. Don't know why we are doing.
Awesome. Well,
that's
took the words right out of my mouth. Those are exactly the reasons why change doesn't happen. And guess what's at the center of every single one of those? People. People are the #1 reason that change initiatives actually fail. And that's human beings work in businesses, and they either are leading part of those changes or they are part of the issues around those change. And 70% of those change initiatives that fail, 90% of that 70, that's kind of a mouthful, 90% of that 70 are frontline managers, and it's not really their fault. They haven't even been set up for success, and they don't know the why, what, and how to successfully participate in that change. I can't tell you the number of times, and I hate to say this, that either I said it or I've heard others in leadership say, gosh, if they only understood what I know around the customer, the business performance, our systems, the marketplace, fill in the blank, it could be anything, they would do what I'm asking them to do. But then we don't really actually give them the information, the data, the story, the narrative, the training, all of that to actually engage them in what we are asking them to do. So it goes to show why things fail. So, again, another opportunity for you to participate.
So, actually, Gretchen, we posed this question when we had our participants register.
That's right.
So, I would like to share some of the things that we heard upon registration. So, some of the themes were M&A, system implementation, changes in focus and reorganization, consistent execution of restaurants, readiness and mindset to change, leading change, finding and retaining great people, navigating change, and then a lack of teamwork or working together as one entity.
Yeah. Wow. It's a lot, isn't it? Yep. Wow. I can tell you that, you know, here at Root, we've we've considered all those things, and we call that the whirlwind.
Yep.
And you can see that in this visual here. So, you know, we've actually listed things like technology and economic viability, but in the food service industry and the food and beverage industry, we could list things like nutritional legislation, healthcare costs, immigration, labor, war for talent, a lot of those things that everybody had submitted in advance. So all of those things are the whirlwind. Those are kind of the external factors that are, external and internal factors that are really impacting our businesses. So let's explore how those then impact an organization at every level, okay? So here is a visual that we use that's really kind of a diagnosis or a view of how those various forces really impact a business. So let's take a look, and I'm going to ask you all, what is the first word that comes to mind when you see this visual? Again, this is an opportunity for you to participate.
Chaos. Seeing a couple chaoses.
usually the first thing that comes to mind. Anything
Disorder.
else? Yep.
Our reality. Uh-oh.
Yep.
You're not alone, Larry.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. It feels like chaos. And imagine if you're in leadership, you know, you've got your own set of chaos, but imagine what it feels like all the way down to the front line. So speaking of, let's go and look at what's happening at the leadership level, okay? So here's the guys at the top, and of course it feels, you know, when you're down in the front lines, it feels like everything's hunky-dory up there, but, you know, they've got their own challenges, right? And so if you look at what's happening, you'll see that all of the leaders are up there, but they're each holding their own piece of the puzzle. And what's really missing is that no one is holding the whole story. There isn't a box top for them to show them the way. There's another person there's only one person that's actually looking out at the future. And so what we call that is there's so many people that are actually working in the business and not on the business, right? So how many people are really thinking about how to make ourselves more effective versus just in the day-to-day of just getting things done? That's a big problem for organizations and especially for leadership teams. Then you've got a guy down there who's pointing at a strategy, and I don't know if you can see it here on the screen, but hopefully you can. He's pointing at the strategy, and you can see that, Meg, right?
Yeah.
He's pointing to page 63 of 147.
Yikes.
Yikes, right? That's oftentimes how we communicate strategy, change, critical priorities in our businesses. How on earth are people supposed to digest 147 slides of information and actually connect the dots? And of course, the rest of them just look like they're trying to survive whatever environment they're in. All right, so that's what's happening at the leadership level when all that stuff is going on. And by the way, in the far upper left corner, you'll see that 90% of strategies are sub-optimized for all of those reasons, right? So then let's go to what we affectionately call is Manager Island. These poor individuals are really what we call the linchpin of delivering good business implementations and strategy and execution. And so you can see, while one person is trying to interpret what the senior leadership team is trying to tell the rest of the organization around the strategy, and then tell his team members how to do it, there's another gentleman that's just kind of standing there saying, I have no idea how to link this to the work that my team is actually doing. You have this poor woman with the butterfly net who is basically saying, oh, I'll just do what my incentive package is telling me to do because apparently it's important enough that the organization has put some rigor around it, right? So I'm just going to focus on that and then I should be okay, right? Like, I don't know what else to focus on. Meg, you can see the woman in the middle who's sprung up from somewhere.
Yeah, it looks like she's catapulted from the Dewar Island.
Yeah, that's right. So some of you on the phone might have been that person. I certainly know I was in my early stages of my career, but she basically was a great individual contributor, and just because she was really good at doing her job, we said, oh, we'll make you, what, a manager. And if you can see, there's a toolkit that says good luck on it, and we give her a 5-minute manager book, and we say, good luck. Hopefully you can figure out how to lead people. It's hard. And it's a totally different skill set. So then we go to the front line, and you look at what's happening on the front line, and it's completely different, right? They're really focused on their function, and they're completely disconnected from the strategy. Some of them are drowning while others are looking for water, and there's one person who's unknowingly just lighting a fire, and then others are having to put out this blaze that she or whomever just created. And again, not intentionally, but that happens sometimes when you just, throw things over the wall to somebody else in your organization. And then do you see the woman that's got the hard hat when she's, building this little pile of dirt? And what she really is doing is creating a barrier between your organization and your customers. And those barriers can be anything from the policies that we create. They can be from her own behavior. It can be from a lack of training, you name it. But somehow those doers have created this barrier between the rest of your organization and what you're trying to accomplish and the people you're actually trying to serve from a customer standpoint. Of course, the customer's like, well, is anybody out there, and do they really care about me? So, I hate to tell you, but we actually drew this picture 30 years ago at the beginning of our journey as a change organization. And not much has actually changed, especially even the dismal-looking engagement scores that are up there on that flag. The only thing that really has changed, we've added iPads so that we look relevant. But these, and the main reason, is that organizations really struggle to connect and bridge those canyons with their people. And you'll hear me say it a couple of times, which is really connecting the dots for our people on the why, what, and how to implement and activate that change. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we've talked about what the challenges are. Let's talk a little bit about the solution. So we promised you we talk about the 3 keys to lead change. And those 3 keys are to define our future, to build an organizational movement, and to create lasting change. So let's talk first about define our future. Here's another staggering statistic for you. Did you know that nearly 53% of leadership teams state that they do not believe in the strategies they just co-authored? Yeah. I mean, they literally stood in a meeting and espoused this strategy and walked out of the room and said, nah, I don't think that really is going to happen. For a multitude of reasons, but most of it is that they truly lack alignment. They're usually presenting their part of the puzzle, but even they don't know how it all links together, let alone being able to communicate that to their front line. And they don't have a comprehensive understanding of what that strategy and vision is, nor able to communicate that to the rest of the business. So I'll share with you one way that we help organizations really talk about that, or think about that. So as we talked earlier, those 70% of the strategies fail due to people issues, and as I just said, leadership teams are also made up of human beings. And just because they're in these roles doesn't mean they have the magic wand or the secret decoder ring. They're also trying to figure it out. And one of the biggest killers of strategy and culture are misaligned and dysfunctional leadership teams. They're not only not aligned around the organizational future state, but also on how they're going to role model those behaviors to create the shifts needed to really deliver that change. And one of the ways we help leaders, and this is the picture that you're seeing on the screen right now, is something we call a water cooler. And the reason we call it a water cooler, you know why we call it a water cooler, Meg? No. No? Didn't mean to stump you. The reason we call it a water cooler is because we know that's actually where the real conversations in business happen. You ever been in the bathroom and people look underneath the stalls to see who else is in there? Well, the water cooler is that same thing, right? This is where the unspoken, the meeting before the meeting after the meeting, that's where all this crap really happens. And that's where the dysfunction shows up. And then what happens is the rest of our team, they watch what the leaders are doing, they watch what the leaders aren't doing, and they align. And that's what actually creates so much of the dysfunction. And so this is just an excellent example. It's not one in the food service industry, so don't try to figure out who that might be. And if anybody's interested later, you'll have an opportunity if you want to see the thought bubbles, because they're hilarious. And you'll probably either want to cry or get a cocktail when you read them, because you'll probably recognize some of the situations you've been in yourself. But Jim Howden, our CEO, talks a lot about the fact that our, leadership teams really need to be the pace car for businesses, for change. If we aren't modeling what we're asking our people to do, they'll figure it out, and they will not be bought in. So I'm going to do a little bit of an exercise with everybody on the phone. So you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So I want you to close your eyes, and I'm going to say a word, and I want you to type in the chat the first word or the image that comes to your mind when I say the word bear.
We got a polar bear, a grizzly bear, a bear trap, a black bear,
okay,
a couple black bears.
Sure.
Granola bar, love it.
Huh.
The bear.
The bear. Right on.
Stuffed bear.
Any more? Meg, what would you think? What were you thinking of?
I was thinking bear skin.
Oh. We've actually heard, all kinds of stuff. But, yeah, so we do this exercise because it really is about how to, get to the simple truth, to get really clear about how we're communicating things. And too often in business, we throw out all this, corporate jargon, and our teams, we think we're really clever, and people are going, yeah, that sounds awesome, but they have no idea how to execute it. And so we use this as an example, and oftentimes within Root we even say, is that a bear issue? Are we really on the same page? I'll give you a personal example about this. In the last organization I was with, we talked about being a trusted advisor to our customers. Sounds fabulous, doesn't it? Who wouldn't argue, or who would argue against wanting to be a trusted advisor? Problem is, we never defined for anybody what trusted advisor really meant. Nobody was really clear about how our team was to show up around trusted advisors. That mean you give everything to a customer, to every customer? Are there some customers you want to give it to be a trusted advisor? So it really created a false sense of clarity, and it unintentionally created all kinds of chaos and misalignment around the execution of the strategy. So we were talking about insight. So we've identified the bear elements, and we've identified the critical leadership, actions and success routines, and the key behaviors, and break them down into tangible steps. And this is really important. That's why I want to get this right. So because it's really important that we find, there are people in your organization that are actually doing things right. And oftentimes we might want to look outside of the organization for best practices, and actually you have people in your business that are doing things right. So what we do is we have these really brilliantly smart ethnographic psychologists that observe the actions and behaviors of the high and mid performers that are leading key roles or functions within your business. And then what we do is we document what those high performers are doing uniquely different than everyone else, and you create, in essence, a playbook of what those success routines are so that you can replicate and scale them across an entire enterprise. Imagine the army of really competent and successful people that can create. So that is key number one. Define your future. So let's talk about build an organizational movement. And that's really about getting everybody in the game. And the way we think about that here at Root is that building an organizational movement is really about creating a compelling story that engages everybody in the business, both intellectually and emotionally, in the why, what, and how of that change. So we use one of our most tried and true deployment solutions, and it leverages a combination of visualization, discovery-based learning, and interaction, because we know it increases engagement and personal ownership in the shift that we are asking others to do. This methodology really takes people through a learning experience that allows them to discover on their own exactly how they individually fit into the broader strategy and then deliver those objectives. We have a saying here at Root, Meg knows this well. People will tolerate the conclusions of their leaders, but they will act upon their own conclusions, right? You can't always tell people what to do and it allows them to uncover it for themselves. So, and then what we do is we pair that great story with a picture, because visualization is so incredibly powerful. There's another great saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words, while a metaphor is worth 1,000 pictures. And we add questions and create that create dialogue and debate and a conversation around the topic so we can enhance the speed of change. And then we partner all that with data elements around the critical points that need to support that change. And those elements combined into one experience engages everybody then in a commonly shared understanding of that why, what, and how. Cool? So that's about getting everybody in the game. All right, so last, and not surprisingly, this is actually the hardest step, sustaining that change. So what you need to do, or what we prescribed, is that this is where you have to hardwire those changes in behaviors and those critical elements of the business strategy or business agenda right into your governance and your metrics and your cadence of business. Clearly define roles and responsibilities and make sure people know, we call them kind of the hard lines, guidelines, and no lines. It's a really powerful concept. And people actually feel liberated when they know, where can I make my own decisions? Where can I not? And what does the organization really hold true? So hard lines, guidelines, and no lines, right? And the next piece of really sustaining that change is the people. We need to invest to help them deliver, make sure that they have the tools that they need. I mean, building leadership mindset, in addition to just the skills, is like training for a marathon. You don't do it once a year at an event or at a workshop. You have to do it every single day. You have to do it through, constant reinforcement and different modalities, because everybody learns and processes differently. So train, train, train again. And then, almost as importantly as anything else that we do in a business, we have to define how we're going to celebrate and reward success and make sure everybody knows what that looks like. One of the things that I love most about Root, we are a big celebration culture. Okay, so those are the 3 keys. And now we're going to talk about a case study, a case study of a leading global organization in the food and beverage segment who has effectively navigated these treacherous waters. So, Ms. Meg.
Yes.
What were you doing in 1996?
Are you sure you want to know?
I don't know. I'm feeling older every day.
I was in the 1st grade.
All right, well, so you will remember this. So what was, the number 1 toy in 1996 was Elmo.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah, you remember that?
Elmo.
Yeah. Bill Clinton was president.
Okay.
Rachel from Friends, that was the hot hairstyle.
Yeah.
I could not achieve that. And the Macarena was the number 1 song. Just shoot me. But let's now think about what was happening in the beverage industry in 1996. So again, all right, wake up out there.
All right, let's chat.
Yes, let's chat. So Does anyone remember the trends that were impacting the carbonated beverage industry in 1996? Let's go back in the time machine.
New Coke. So they switched their ingredients?
Yes, okay,
recipe?
she was in first grade. She doesn't even remember New Coke stuff.
Sorry. More options. Clear Pepsi.
Okay. What else? Keep it coming.
So more than just soda. Diet soda.
Yeah, yeah. More than just soda. Interesting, okay.
Flavor fusion.
Okay.
Different flavors.
Yeah.
Yep. Snapple and tea popularity.
Ah.
Energy drinks. Yeah, so a lot of variety.
Well, there you go. Well, you nailed it, smart people out there. All right, so we're going to talk about Pepsi. Shocker. There's only two, and we had a 50-50 shot at it. So there was an article in 1996 by Fortune magazine where they basically said that Coke kicks Pepsi's can. And they were just really slow on the uptick. They were sitting there kind of fat and happy, as they say, and really hadn't figured out and recognized that carbonated soft drinks were really slowing. The whole growth was slowing. I think somewhere in the neighborhood of about 3% year over year. And that the alternative beverage segments were just skyrocketing, especially tea. Whoever said tea was really, really smart. Also, what was happening is consumers' behaviors were really shifting. This was kind of the baby boomers were becoming adults, and we were thinking about, our mortality, I think. Starting to think about mortality. People were more on the go. We were thinking about healthier choices. This is the boom of bottled water. Which none of us at that time probably thought we'd ever spend $5 for a bottle of water, but we did. The customer was really blurring the lines of channels. People weren't just going to the grocery store for this or just to food service for that. It was starting to really blur, and the business model was not sustainable. And Pepsi was just sitting there kind of watching all this happen. But at that same time, their window to capture kind of the first to market was starting to close on them. And so that's why when this Fortune magazine, financial analyst wrote this article, he's like, they're going to lose it. They're going to be irrelevant in no time. So it was a pretty big wake-up call, I'll say, for the leadership team at that time. And but they started to look at all of those trends. They put it all together. The leadership team put all those puzzle pieces together, and they determined they needed to evolve, really from this single offering to really this huge total beverage offering, and figure out how to bring that to market, right? There's a couple ways that you can do it, but that's what they realized. So they set out to go to share this with the strategy with everybody. So I want to introduce you a little bit to this gentleman by the name of Joe. So one of the key people in the organization who actually delivers the strategy is right there on the front line. He's the person sitting in front of the customer every day, and he's the proverbial literally where the rubber hits the road. So Pepsi leadership knew that for the strategy to work, they had to get Joe to understand exactly the new ways of working and why it was critical. So what did they do? Like a typical leadership organization, they put together the fancy 200-page PowerPoint, and they went and did town hall meeting after town hall meeting for literally a year, telling everybody from distribution center to distribution center, from shift to shift, exactly what they needed to do and why they needed to do it. Guess what happened? Although Joe had structurally, everything he needed to be successful. He had materials he needed to be successful, his opinions counted, people were talking to him, so there was a lot of things that were actually happening pretty well, but the results were not so good. So 53% of the trucks leaving the DCs had some sort of out-of-stock, missed picks, missed shipments. The drivers were even ready to strike. Yeah. So here they are. They're already behind the business curve, and their front line that are absolutely critical to delivering strategy don't get it. And they spent a year and probably hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to convince these people. Well, what was the problem? Well, basically, Joe wasn't engaged. Nobody connected the dots for him on what the why was behind that strategy, what his role was in delivering that. I mean, he was still sitting there, well, we sell Pepsi, don't we? Why do I need to have all this other stuff? Because if you remember, the Pepsi truck was a small, couple bays. I had 5 SKUs. Life was great. And I'd been making money forever. Why do I need to do this? Once they went through that entire process, through understanding and connecting those dots, what you need, Joe, to understand is if we don't do this, you don't have a job. We don't have a business. And that's kind of that strategic imperative, that business platform that we needed Joe to really get. So using the 3 keys that we talked about earlier, how did Pepsi then really convince Joe that it was the right thing to do? And as we talked about earlier, back to the leadership team, right? So even when we went back to the leadership team who knew all that data, you can see, it's really hard, and I apologize for a little bit of the graininess of the pictures, but you can see, do you see that right in the middle? You can see Coke pretty prominent. It's even showing up as the gorilla in the middle of the room, because back in those days, it was all about Coke versus Pepsi, Coke versus Pepsi. They'd lost sight, and these came from interviews from the leadership team, so even they were still, like some of them were still marred in the past. It's just about Coke. They weren't connecting how those consumer insights were really going to drive and be that kind of aha moment for the organization. So as you can see, this whole leadership alignment process where we went from, the interviews and sketches to what we now call is the revolution on Beverage Street. So what Pepsi did was they actually brought every single employee all across the world. As a matter of fact, we actually even did this in China, but connected their employees to the changing dynamics within the beverage marketplace. And they created a workforce that was really embracing that whole new total beverage strategy and a mindset that then changed the dialogue from why do we need to do this to how do we move faster. Wow, isn't that amazing, right? And then they followed it up. That's that lasting change part, right? With, oh my gosh, now that I know the why I need to do this, what exactly do I need to be doing? And that's where we help them with their AOP process and help them really understand kind of this innovation and efficiency. It really helped the employees then understand, how these 2 focus areas could then operate in harmony, like efficiency and innovation. What? How can that happen together? To really create that total beverage supremacy. And then once you have the why and the what, of course, you need the how. So we literally took, the top off of the building, and we diagnosed exactly where were all the break points in their workflow process. How are they making money? Where aren't they making money? Where are they creating chaos for themselves internally? Where are they creating chaos for their customers? And what were those economics behind the business? And the ultimate success of that strategy was highly dependent on their ability to handle the increased complexity of that new customer-centric model. And everybody needed to understand how that change was going to happen. And it wasn't just for the people in the field. Everybody at corporate and everybody in a support role needed to have that same view. That is how you do this. You go from this, which is just a single beverage strategy, just kind of, sitting there, not doing much, not seeing the future, to, a total beverage company, and everybody knows the success of Pepsi today. A couple of really, other big things to note here is that their stock rose 125%. That same person that wrote that article wrote an apology to the leadership team and basically said, I don't know how you did it, but you fixed your problem. And we're really proud here at Root to say that Pepsi's been a client of ours for over 2 decades, and we've done somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 projects for them. And I'm not at liberty to share names and all that good stuff, but you can kind of figure out it's really cool because one of the key leaders that was a part of that work is now come back. He's the CEO of another big company in our industry, and he's asked us to come and help us do a very similar transformation for them because he knows the power of engaging his people in that process. So that's the Pepsi story.
So, awesome. I love that story, Gretchen. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about the challenges that we were talking about earlier that the participants added in. And, and maybe if you guys want to share, what shifts are you trying to make that can relate to those challenges?
I think we had some additional ones that maybe came in after. Do we have some more? Or no, you already captured those, didn't we?
Oops, wrong question. 1 second. So what shifts are you trying to make in your business or your organization, or what shifts does your business need to take in order to bridge the gap with those challenges? Tech adoption.
Yep.
Here we go. Shift to ongoing coaching rather than annual performance review. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
Implement tech. So there's a lot of tech.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, someday over cocktails, whoever's doing technology implementations, I'll tell you my SAP implementation story. That was brutal.
Integrating new business.
Yeah. Oh, very good.
Good one.
All right. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a lot out there, a lot of change, you know. I mean, you know, we debate internally about, we got 2 more?
Remote workforce.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, and M&A.
Yep.
Oof. Yeah, a lot of change in M&A. I mean, from business processes and people issues and strategies. So that's a mouthful in a few letters. Well, thank you guys for sharing. What I'll tell you is that, you know, at Root, we're like all the change companies out there. We got a process, and it's got 8 stages, which we kind of shared. But as you know, and as you've heard, hopefully, is that what really, I think, differentiates how we approach things is that it's really about engaging people. We just know that people are at the heart of everything and the heart of businesses, and it's really important to bring them along in the journey. And we just bucketed those 8 processes into really 3 key focus areas, which is, you know, define your future, build an organizational movement, and create lasting change. And we work with organizations around all 3 of these, or sometimes we meet you where you are. Sometimes you find your future just fine, but we'll help organizations in around the other 2. But the whole goal here is that, just as we talked about in the Canyon, is that in every organization, you know, at every role, you're just trying to figure it out, right? You're trying to bridge the canyons. And so, you know, you got CEOs and leaders and managers and frontline people who are just saying, you know, just give me the roadmap. Tell me what you want me to do. Because really, our employees don't show up to screw up. They really, well, there's a few, but for the most part, they really just want the roadmap, and they want you to tell them how to do it. And you go from this to this, where they feel engaged, they know what they're doing, I'm in the game, I feel empowered, I feel supported, I know what you want me to do, I know how to be successful. And my golly, if there's not a generation, then the millennials and probably the next ones, they really want to feel part of something bigger than themselves. And creating that kind of passion and involvement is you can unleash so much passion. So we've done this for organizations. I've listed, you know, we've done them for lots of businesses, but I've listed those that are really in the food and hospitality space for over our 30 years. We've done things from everything from large cultural and strategic transformation to guest and employee experience, technology implementations, as people have said, to doing things like managing food costs and labor and operational excellence. And, you know, and what are we doing this for? Because we want to help both liberate people's potential, but at the end of the day, we also have to deliver business results just like you do. And we think we have a unique and differentiated way in doing that. So that is 3 keys, and that's how we've helped organizations change. So my challenge to you is don't just manage it, take charge of it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Gretchen. So just wanted to let you guys know, as a follow-up to this, we will be sending you via email, and I'll actually also link it to our chat here, a really awesome takeaway and tool for you to use as you think about, again, those challenges and those shifts that you're looking to make. How ready are you or your organization to make those changes and make those shifts, and how can these 3 keys really help in that process? We hope you learned some valuable tips today on how you can lead and activate change in your organizations. Please feel free to follow up with Gretchen or myself. We'd be happy to continue this conversation individually and chat with you further. So thanks again for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your Thursday.
Thank you, Meg, for being my partner.
Yeah.
And thank you all for being on the call. All right.
Thank you.